welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I am Banjo Ben, your host here on the website that teaches you how to play banjo and mandolin. This week is Guitar Week, and I've got a really fun one for you today. We're going to do Blackberry Blossom. I would call this an intermediate version because there's not tons of tricks. We don't go up the neck, but I've built it to also double as a great exercise for both your fretting hand and your pick hand. And I'll show you how that works once we get into it. But I end up using this a lot for like a warm-up piece or to help build my speed. We're also going to spend about 10 minutes talking about how to play rhythm for this song, going over the regular chords, but then also talking about chord substitutions, bass note substitutions, those types of things. It's a lot of fun. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube here in a moment, I'll ask you to come over to BanjoBenClark.com. You can join as a Go Pick member. You can have access to this 30-minute lesson. I've got the tabs exactly as I wrote it. I've got 3 different speeds of jamtracks that you can download. Plus, as a Go Pick member, you have access to all of my lessons, which there's hundreds of them, so come check that out. Let's jump right into Blackberry Blossom. Let's learn a fun version for Blackberry Blossom. This is a great old fiddle tune. It's in the key of G. You know, it's got that typical fiddle tune structure where we have an A part that lasts 8 measures, then it repeats it. And then we'll change chord progressions and melody for the B part, which lasts 8 measures, then we'll repeat it. So it's a total of 32 measures. Let's go ahead and throw up the first line of tab there. You'll notice that we have our pick stroke directions beneath each one of the notes. Those are very, very important. I want you to pay attention on these because I wrote this version not only to be fun to play and to be able to tackle for you intermediate players, but also because it's a wonderful, wonderful exercise for both our pick hand and our fretting hand, and we'll get more into that. You'll also notice there are lots of chord changes in this one. Look above the tab there. You see all those chords. The chords change pretty much twice per measure, so every 2 beats, which sounds really cool with the melody that we have. Now we're in the key of G, so we have our typical chords that we're going to see in the key of G, but the A part's also going to have an A7 chord, and when we get to the B part, we'll have an E minor and a B7 chord, but we'll talk more about those coming up. Okay, so here's how we're going to work this as far as an exercise. This melody, if we were to really strip it down, it would consist of half notes that would sound like this. Bum, 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 bum. Of course, there's a lot of filler notes in that. And there's a couple different ways that we can fill those. And the ways that they're typically filled are what's called a circular scale. What do I mean by circular scale? A circular scale is when you follow a scale and you go up a few notes and then you circle back around to a lower note and climb again, climb again, climb again. You could also do it descending. An example of that, if I was to do it with a G scale starting down here, sound like this. So you get the feeling of that, how that sounds. Well, this melody is kind of built out of that type of movement. And so there's a couple different ways we can do it. As we start down that melody note, measure 3, it's labeled measure 3, even though it's the second measure on the line, we're going to begin to climb up the scale. And then come back to our origination note. Then our melody goes down to the 4th fret, and we climb again. Then it goes down again, and we climb. And then we're going to rest there with a quarter note on the 3rd beat of measure 4. And then we're going to begin another climb. So as we come into measure 5, we begin this climb over a C chord, then over a G chord. Then we're going to start a climb back up the scale, but we're going to follow an A scale here in measure 6, and then a D scale. Okay, now later on we're going to change that up. But this is really cool because the melody, if you think about it, the melody is going bum ba da dum ba da dum ba da dum ba da bum ba da dum ba da dum ba da bum. So the melody is going down, but the inside movements of the song are climbing. So what I would really recommend, almost demand, is that you pay attention to these pick stroke directions, okay, if you're not experienced with those, because we're skipping a lot of strings. We're going back and forth. So we're going to have to be catching upstrokes on lower strings and downstrokes on higher strings, all kinds of combinations, and this is where it's really going to serve well to work as an exercise. Let's play through this first line somewhat slow together, and then I'll play it much, much slower for you later on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 7, we're going to repeat that same movement coming down. You've seen all this before. And then we're going to wrap up here in measure 10 with just the end of that phrase. Now, as we go into the second A part, the melody essentially stays the same. We're just going to tackle it a different way. So the melody is still going to go bum ba da dum ba da dum ba da dum ba da bum 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 ba da bum bum bum. This time, instead of doing that climbing circular scale, we're going to do a descending circular scale. So we're just going to reverse the movement. So instead of going open, 2, 4, open, we're going to go open, 4, 2, open. So we're flipping all of those movements around. That's what measure 11 sounds like when we get to measure 12.